I wanted to take questions from the audience, so are you really, you don't have a choice?
No, I don't have a
Okay, if you can
choice.
ask a question
And
of all three candidates.
qualify that by saying that my name is Eric Richardson. I'm a vice president of North Georgia Labor Council.
Okay.
And we have screened all these candidates that chose not to endorse.
Awesome.
They're gonna let, y'all run it out, and then we'll see. But I do have some questions for you. One dealing with the T-SPLOST. What guarantee is there that a single job will go to a single Georgian under the T-SPLOST? There is none. Okay? The other thing is, if it's voted down, it can be resubmitted in 2 years. And you're hearing a lot of rumors that if we don't vote it, it's going to go to other cities. It's not true. Fulton County, South Fulton County, as well as, so I've got a question.
Gotcha.
I'm bringing to a question.
Take your time.
South Fulton, I want to give them a little history in case they don't know. South Fulton, South DeKalb have been underserved for a very long time, and they're not included in the plan like you think they are. How would you solve that issue?
I can go first. Well, if it's voted down, that's the, I guess, premise that you gave. It's voted down, we got 2 years. If it comes back, which I think it will come back, like you said, it will come back. My job as a state representative would be, one, to get Georgia workers, get some type of mandate in that legislation and on the ballot, and also, two, make sure we fight for unions, that, hey, that the people who are bidding on these jobs have union workers. Because if you have a company that has non-union workers versus a company that has union workers who's taking care of those employees and their families, making sure they have benefits, well, it's going to cost a little bit more on the union side, but at the same time, they're taking care of their workers and their families versus someone who's out here just trying to make a quick buck. So you have a fighter up there, if it's turned down, to get Georgia people on those projects. And I'll give you a prime example what Representative Joe Hextall did over at the Camp Creek Marketplace. He said, look, if you don't hire people, if you don't get people from this area working over here, I'm not letting it go through. And he's been up there 20 plus years, so he knew what he was doing. And having people like Joe Hextall, who you could talk to as being a freshman up there, you can get a lot of really good things done.
As a union member, I have to echo what Ron just said. As a member of the union, I think it's very imperative that we continue to have them involved in that we ensure that they're in on these projects. And one of my biggest things is transparency and letting people know exactly what's going on with government, what's going on with money. And if you have an organization or companies that are participating in projects and not hiring individuals from the state or companies from the state or just union members from the state, I think we make that known to the public and we put shame on those people, because we need jobs in the state of Georgia, and how dare you have the audacity to go out of the state of Georgia and hire people to come in here and take those jobs. So just letting people know and being very transparent, putting that pressure on employers to keep the jobs here.
Ms. Richard.
I agree that we need to have union workers on these jobs, and that we need, out of the unholy alliance, that we need union people. We need representation from the unions in those negotiations.
You had mentioned, Mr. Maber, earlier about the three different, your district is in Fayette, Clayton, and South Fulton, or Fulton County. Three very different governing systems. I would almost say, knowing pieces of all three very different types of people. How will each of you work with such a different set and grouping of peoples within that local county government of those three counties, starting with Mr. Dakota?
Well, I think that's where my advantage is that over the last almost 10 years, I've had the fortune of working with legislators and city council members from different vast areas of the district. And so I know specifically how those cities and how those different parts of the district work. And as I said, from day one, I'll be able to jump in and hit the ground running, because I truly understand and have an understanding of how those areas work and their wants and their needs, and how to help to provide those things.
Ms. Richard.
As you mentioned, each district has its unique issues. For instance, Fayette County, the Board of Commissioners is a Republican board. and Fayette County also has at-large voting versus district voting. So it's important to understand the scheme of the districts that, of the counties that you're working with. And although they're all Republican board, they're very nice people and they all do a pretty good job. So we have to be able to foster work. Well, I have some working relationships with some of the commissioners already. It's important that, that you're visible. A lot of the people say, well, you know, you come around now because you're campaigning, but what do you do when you go in office? And it's important that we attend the commission meetings, the planning meetings, the zoning meetings. And although there's 3 different districts, you have to spend the time on the issues in each different district and understand those dynamics.
Mr. Mayor?
Being able to relate to people there. This is home for me. This is where I grew up. Grew up in Fayette, you know, played football, elementary school, middle school, high school, knowing people there. My father worked on South Fulton off the old National Corridor for the UFCW. And he worked there for that union, and I played over there, knew a lot of people there. And then I actually worked, you know, starting off my career over in Clayton County. So having relationships with the people who are on the board of commissioners in these different counties, being out there and being visible, and so you just have to be able to relate, let people know what's going on, and so being able to say, hey, these are what they're saying down in Clayton County, this is what's being said in Fulton, this is what is being said in Fayette, and knowing that you have some type of connection to all 3 of those counties, which I do, I think that's very strong, and that goes a long way.
Going forward in that question, each of you talked about the working with the governments, because that's the question I asked. Now, taking it a step further, how will you work for the people in those 3 different areas? Because the people are very different. Fayette being a little bit more higher income, Clayton being a little bit lower income, Fulton kind of being right there in the middle. So with 3 disparate groups of people, races, gender, everything, how would you plan to represent equally all 3 groups? Ms. Pritchett goes first.
Actually, the part of Clayton that's in our district is a upper middle class area, so it's about the same. The income ratio to Fayette is about the same. They just have different issues. So you have to just stay engaged and involved and available to the people. The people have to know that if they call you, you'll call them back. That you're, if you can't answer the question, you can't yourself. You can direct them to those resources that can help them. Having town hall meetings are important. A lot of people complain we haven't had a town hall meeting in 3-6 months. You have to consistently meet with the people, meet with the heads of those local governments, and stay involved and engaged.
Mr.
Copeland?
It's just staying engaged, heavily engaged. You know, one of the biggest things that I do now, and I've done for the last few years, is going to different HOAs, homeowner association meetings, and just learning about what's going on in people's neighborhoods, what are their wants and what are their needs, and that's something that's not going to stop. Just being heavily involved in the areas that you want to represent, and that you're a part of. You need to know what's going on down the street, or you know, a few miles on down the street. So just drop in on those HOAs and those town hall meetings. One of the biggest things that I'm really excited about doing is, once elected, is having quarterly town hall meetings throughout the district. Just so I'm sure that I always know what is going on throughout the district and how I can better serve and be a part of that neighborhood, and give them the representation that they deserve.
Okay.
Serving the constituents is something that I'm already doing as part of my campaign, and I strategically wanted to do that because I wanted to set an example in setting up my campaign headquarters in the middle of the district, right in Fayette, to be accessible to people. So when you're knocking on doors, you can say, hey, come by my headquarters, come talk to me. I'll come talk to you. We're already going to HOA, seeing Linda and TJ. We're already going to the same events, but also knowing that they could come to you and they don't have to drive all the way up to the Capitol to see you, that you're there accessible to them right there at home, and just being out there and being engaged and involved with them and showing that you care and that you're going to fight for them. I think it goes a really long way.
Okay. Ms. Pritchett had mentioned the different areas and the lack of representation previous to this for some of the areas. But you all each know there's 3 different areas. What are the major issues as you travel around? What have you heard of the major issues in each, particularly one major issue or the major issue in each area, Fayette, Clayton, Fulton? And how would you address that issue specific to that constituency?